The fourth International Exhaust Emissions Symposium, entitled Trends in Automotive Emissions, Fuels, Lubricants, Legislation and Test Methods, Present and Future, was held at Bosmal Automotive Research and Development Institute in Bielsko-Biała, Poland, over the 22nd and 23rd of May 2014. The fourth symposium was an event organized by Bosmal and the Polish Scientific Society of Combustion Engines, PTNSS, as part of an ongoing project to establish Bosmal as a center of competence for automotive propulsion system development, co-funded by the EU. Experts from the automotive field, fuel and lubricant manufacturers, and after-treatment system specialists reported on recent developments and key trends for the near future regarding automotive emissions control and testing, fuel and lubricant issues and related topics.
Istniejemy już ponad 40 lat i ponad 40 lat
We've been in business for over 40 years, and for over 40 years we've been involved in testing exhaust gas components in vehicular exhaust gas. We're very well equipped in that respect. We have the appropriate equipment of world-leading class. In addition to our work on exhaust emissions, we have a very strong engine testing department, where we conduct various types of development work. Yes, we have 20 engine dynamometers. We also have a very well-organized materials testing laboratory to meet the needs of the automotive industry in that area. And we also have an excellent department taking care of road testing activities. We have a group of constructors, and we also have production capabilities to build not only research installations, but also to produce prototypes of automotive components. We have very good staff and lots of experience, and we want to share this experience with others, as well as profit from the experience of others. And so, for that reason, we organize these international meetings. This year, we have organized for the fourth time this International Symposium on Exhaust Emissions.
Zorganizowaliśmy po raz czwarty międzynarodowe seminarium na temat badań toksyczności spalin z pojazdów.
This is the fourth event of this type we have organized. The first is being back in 2010. We invited experts from the automotive and fuel industries, as well as distinguished speakers from technical universities, the ICCT and GRC. Our guests were speaking about emissions, internal combustion engines development, after treatment, fuels and lubricants, test methods, and even policy and health effects. This event is a forum for the exchange of ideas, scientific and technical information, in a friendly atmosphere amongst friends and experts from the fields I mentioned.
Over the 2 days of the event, a total of 25 individuals delivered presentations to the symposium. 5 specially invited keynote speakers delivered extended presentations on subject areas of particular relevance to the symposium's content. The keynote speakers and other presenters delivered their presentations during 5 thematic sessions entitled Introduction, Context and Agenda, Automotive Emissions and Emissions Legislation, Emissions Reduction Methods and After-Treatment System Development for Light and Heavy-Duty Applications, Nanoparticle Emissions from Internal Combustion Engines, and Fuel and Lubricant Development. In addition to these invited speakers, many other individuals attended the symposium, with a total of around 120 participants from a total of 16 countries representing 3 continents. Written-only submissions and posters also form part of the event and its proceedings.
At the ICCT, we feel that the global harmonization of emissions makes a lot of sense because it's a win-win situation, and it works very well as long as we don't go for the lowest common denominator and we adopt the best practice and the best technologies. And in that way, we can all have access to the clean air that we all deserve.
I think we've seen tremendous increases in the air quality due to improvements in engine technology nowadays. The concern that we now have at the moment is what do ultrafine particles do on our health. There's still a lot of uncertainty that we need to solve.
I think that the WLTP is an historical milestone, both for the European car industry and for the European legislation. I understand that there are concerns, there are even fears regarding its introduction. But I truly believe that after the introduction of the WLTP, there will be more advantages for the environment and even for the industry than drawbacks. So I support and encourage all the parties to actively support the introduction of WLTP.
We are doing a lot of effort to globalize emission testing. However, it must be understood there will be all the time a difference between the world without America and America is doing something by themselves. We have different targets. The target for America is more to go to zero emissions on vehicle. Greenhouse gas is not so important for America. In Europe and the rest of the world, we are trying to balance low emission with a good greenhouse gas. That's a basically difference.
And congratulations having for fourth conference in Bosmal. Especially I really appreciate it to invite me and from this organization, especially for Piazza, invite me several times. This time I tried to come here. At the same time I canceled my trip to Japan to attend Japan SAE show this week. I prefer to come here this year, this time here in Bosmal. Then I already see there are great presentations, good preparations, plus deep involvement for this industry from this Bosmal. I realized again, and there are strong activities in this field. And this time I like to refresh all my older knowledges related to the emission field, etc. Then I like to come back to this organization to contribute in a more engineering capabilities from our company to Bosmal to build more mutual win-win situations.
In terms of current trends in automotive emissions at the moment, it really is a very difficult scenario. We've got reductions in the criteria limiting greenhouse gas. We also have the application of very high technology, automotive technology. And also we have a big change in the automotive test regulations as well to go with it. When you put all of this together and when you look at what the other trend of real world emissions, then it really is going to make a lot of challenges for vehicle manufacturers in the future.
My job at Corning is to track emerging emission technologies, to look at engines, fuels, regulations, emission control systems. So the question of the major trends in emission control technology is a very interesting one. That's one of my favorite topics.
Diesel engines are very popular for the non-road applications. They have many advantages, but also a lot of disadvantages regarding emission pollutants. They emit a high quantity of NOx and in particularly carcinogenic soot. This soot is a problem because it has a strong health effect, and it is important to use the best available technology on diesel engines in non-road application. That's why Switzerland has recognized very early the problem and has applied first retrofit regulation on in-use non-road machines on construction sites, and 2008 it introduced a stringent particle number limit for construction machinery, which can be then met with use of a retrofit filter also.
The most important trends that I'm seeing right now are several. On the gasoline side, it is continuous improvement of the three-way catalytic converter. So we're still seeing a reduction of emissions. Another 80%, 90% is likely at very similar precious metal loadings from what we can tell today. But on the diesel side, we are consolidating functionality. We're putting the SCR function onto the filter for space savings, for better improvement in performance, and better light off, thermal management. The other thing that's happening is a very rapid development in the efficiency of DeNOx control systems, especially as they pertain to the low temperatures.
The next emission regulation will not so any more stringent like we have seen to date in the past. That means that is required a paradigm change, which will pass from emission-driven innovation and development to CO2 or fuel consumption driven development.
As the number of vehicle variants drastically increases, also the calibration effort for those vehicles increases, and we definitely need to make sure that we handle the calibration data in an appropriate way. That means we need to make sure who changed what, why and when throughout the complete process. We need to make sure that we can reuse as much of this data as possible, not to make any faults. And all the other parameters where we really focus on the customer value, we need automated testing and front-loading approach with model-based development.
The conclusion of our research is that the most toxic substance in engine emission are particles, very small solid particles. These are soot particles or ash particles, and they are in a range of about 100 nanometers, very small, not visible. So since we know they are so dangerous, it's very important we measure them correctly. So we have to measure them in the exhaust, and we also have to measure them in the ambient air. And since it is so important to know what happens in real world driving, we need to have small handheld instruments.
Fuel trends in the US, due to increased supplies of natural gas, we actually see a much larger interest in natural gas for transportation applications. What we see right now is that the pickup is mainly on the heavy-duty side, especially with centrally refueled trucks. There is some interest, and we see more and more suppliers who also consider natural gas for light-duty applications, but it's uncertain at this point what the pickup rate is going to be due to the limited number of refueling stations. Also, from a US perspective, diesel can almost be considered an alternative fuel, since the number of refueling stations is picking up, but not every gas station in the US actually has diesel fuel for passenger car applications. The market share of diesel in the US right now is about 2%, so it's really small compared to some European markets that have maybe more than 50% diesel market share. Other than that, we also see an increased interest in ethanol. Already nationwide in the US we have E10, so 10% ethanol in gasoline. There is now legislation in place to increase the ethanol content up to 15%. But there's also some pushback because that legislation is only good for cars 2001 and newer. And there's also concern that these higher ethanol concentrations might be harmful for other engine applications, for example, lawnmowers or off-road equipment. So there's a wide range of fuel-related topics that are being currently discussed in the US.
Starts on fuel and retail, we wanted to develop a new fuel series. And for the gasoline, we wanted to explore the possibility of using friction modifier components. We are quite familiar with the deposit control additives, so with the Bosmal expertise and very professional equipment and employees, we were able to detect even small changes in fuel consumption performance. And we tested different treat rates with the fuel friction modifier additive, and we were able to get the optimum treat rate of the additive to get a cost-effective solution both for us and our customers.
So from today's vehicles, customers expect superior design and very good performance. So environmental compatibility concerning powertrain, this is of course expected, and it's the case for each and every vehicle we build. In addition, for customers is interesting the dark drive quality. What does the vehicle do if it gives an input to the gas pedal? So the vehicle should always exactly do what the customer is expecting.
Closing the symposium at the end of the second day, Professor Merkisch summarized the technical message of the symposium. He later added some opinions regarding the event and the future of automotive powertrains and their testing requirements.
Z przyjemnością obserwuję, że ta konferencja staje się.
I'm pleased to see that this symposium is one of the main automotive conferences hosted in Poland. In relation to these conferences, I have one main opinion, that combustion engines were, are and will be the base source of power for all forms of transport, especially long-distance transport. A combustion engine must work together with its fuel, its lubrication and its after-treatment system. Only this joint interaction will produce the desired effect. Trends for combustion engines at the moment are determined by regulations concerning fuel consumption and exhaust emissions. Another very important thing, apart from laboratory testing, in which Bosmal is truly in a class of its own, is road testing under real driving conditions, which is one of our specialities here at Poznan University of Technology. Therefore, by using these methods, Bosmal and Poznan University of Technology can extend the range of the research services they offer.
Może poszerzyć ofertę badawczą.
The symposium featured a formal dinner with evening entertainment as part of its social program. Organised at the end of the first day, it took place in a former palace, now a hotel, just outside Bielsko-Biała. The aim of the dinner was to allow symposium participants to interact and network with each other, as well as to relax and enjoy Bosmal and PTNSS hospitality.